Hello and welcome back to my vlog, Tea Leaves by Francis S. Drake. The North End Caucus, composed mostly of mechanics, met frequently to consider what should be done and voted, October 23rd, that they would oppose with their lives and fortunes the vending of any tea that might be sent to the town for sale by the East India Company. We were so careful, says Paul Revere, that our meetings should be kept secret, that every time we met, every person swore upon the Bible not to discover any of our transactions, but to Hancock, Warren, or Church, and one or two more leaders. The caucus and the Long Room Club were local organizations and were all included in the larger and more important one known as the Sons of Liberty. This association pervaded nearly all the colonies. It was first known in Boston as the Union Club, and gained its later name from the phrase employed in the British Parliament by Colonel Barre in his famous speech. It was formed in 1765, soon after the passage of the Stamp Act, and had among its members most of the leading patriots of the day. Their organization was secret, with private passwords to protect them from Tory spies. On public occasions, each member wore, suspended from his neck, a medal, on one side of which was the figure of a stalwart arm grasping in its hand a pole, surmounted with a cap of liberty, and surrounded by the words, Sons of Liberty. On the reverse was a representation of Liberty Tree. It was under this tree, in the open space known as Liberty Hall, at the junction of Newbury, Orange, and Essex streets, that their public meetings in Boston were held. The Sons of Liberty issued warrants for the arrest of suspected persons, arranged in secret caucus the preliminaries of elections and the program for public celebrations, and in fact were the mainspring, under the guidance of the popular leaders, of every public demonstration against the government. In Boston, they probably numbered about 300. The 14th of August, the anniversary of the repeal of the Stamp Act, was celebrated by them for several years with grand display and festivity. Under date of January 15, 1766, John Adams says in his diary, I spent the evening with the Sons of Liberty at their own apartment in Hanover Square near the Tree of Liberty. It is a counting room in Chase and Speakman's distillery. A very small room it is. There were present John Avery, a distiller, of liberal education, John Smith, the brazier, Thomas Crafts, the painter, Benjamin Eddies, the printer, Stephen Cleverly, brazier, Thomas Chase, distiller, Joseph Fields, master of a vessel, Henry Bass, George Trott, jeweler, and Henry Wells. I was very cordially and respectfully treated by all present. We had punch, wine, pipes and tobacco, biscuit and cheese, etc. They chose a committee to make preparations for grand rejoicings upon the arrival of the news of a repeal of the Stamp Act. The counting room of which Adams speaks could, from its small size, have been the committee room of the body only. Governor Bernard wished to send some of the leading Sons of Liberty to England for trial, but did not dare do so. New York was the center of the organization, to which all communications from the other colonies were sent. A correspondent in London kept them informed of the proceedings and designs of the British ministry. At 1 o'clock in the morning of the 2nd of November, 1773, the consignees were aroused from their slumbers by a violent knocking at their doors, and a summons was left for them to appear at Liberty Tree on the following Wednesday to resign their commissions and not to fail at their peril. A handbill was at the same time posted about the town notifying the people of Boston and the vicinity to be present at the same time and place to witness their resignation. On the appointed day, a large flag was hung out at Liberty Tree. The public crier announced the meeting at the top of his voice, and the church bells were rung for an hour. At noon, 500 persons assembled. Samuel Adams, John Hancock, and William Phillips, representatives of Boston, were present, with William Cooper, the patriotic town clerk, and the Board of Selectmen. The consignees failing to appear, a committee consisting of William Molyneux, William Denny, Dr. Joseph Warren, Dr. Benjamin Church, Henderson Inches, Edward Proctor, Nathaniel Barber, Gabriel Johonot, and Ezekiel Cheever, waited on them at Clark's warehouse at the foot of King, now State Street, where they, together with a number of their friends, had assembled. As they passed the townhouse, still standing at the head of this street, Hutchinson, who saw the procession, says that the committee were attended by a large body of the people, many of them not of the lowest rank. Molyneux was the spokesman. "From whom are you a committee?" asked Clark. "From the whole people," was the reply. "Who are the committee?" "I am one," said Molyneux, and he named the rest. "What is your request?" "That you give us your word to sell none of the teas in your charge, but return them to London in the same bottoms in which they were shipped. Will you comply?" "I shall have nothing to do with you," was the rough and peremptory reply, in which the other consignees who were present concurred. Molyneux then read the resolve passed at Liberty Tree, declaring that those who should refuse to comply with the request of the people were enemies to their country and should be dealt with accordingly. When the committee reported the result to the crowd outside, the cry was raised, "Out with them! Out with them!" Those within attempted to close the doors, but the people unhinged them and carried them off. Justice Nathaniel Hatch, who in the king's name now commanded the peace, was hooted at and struck when people were persuaded to desist. The committee returned to Liberty Tree, where they reported to the meeting, which quietly dispersed. Of those composing this gathering, the consignees wrote to the East India Company as follows. They consisted chiefly of people of the lowest rank. Very few respectable tradesmen, as we are informed, appeared amongst them. The selectmen say that they were present to prevent disorder. There can be little doubt that the political assemblies of that day, as do those at the present time, fairly represented the body of the people. The mechanics of Boston, whatever their rank in the social scale, were the active patriots of the Revolutionary period. Kind of like the bikers, maybe, who went to D.C. I don't know. Anyway, more tomorrow. Make it a great day, and bye for now.